Okay. So tell about what do you do? What are you doing? So I thought you were teaching kindergarten, the littlest, as you like to call them.
Oh, every time they come up in conversation, I just have to hold my heart because I miss them so much.
You do?
Yeah, so this year was a big transition for me. I decided to take a leap of faith and move into more of a coaching role. So it's a very part-time Title I position. The exact title is Social Emotional Learning Coach. However, it's very part-time. So, and I took that because I wanted to spend more time giving myself to the teacher students I have working in courses. And then I also have an online membership. So a lot going on, but overall I'm coaching.
So go into those a little bit. So tell me about each one of those things you just kind of glossed over.
Yeah. So in my social emotional learning coach role, I basically am just going into classrooms and providing kind of small group support with students who just need that extra small group assistance, and just that time where we're discussing a lot of what I do with my teacher students who work with me online. So in my online monthly membership, we take social emotional traits and we work on those each month. So for example, last month we were working on coping skills. So we were just bringing all of that into our classrooms, and I take a lot of what I use there and I repurpose it with my students in the classroom. And it's, yeah, sorry, I could go on.
Go, keep going.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's amazing to see. I mean, our students are hungry for this work. You know, they need it so much. So I feel really lucky to be in this position where I am providing teachers this much needed support and assistance, because they're not getting it. They're not getting it from their districts, sadly to say, because I mean, and I know you feel the same, it's such a no-brainer that our kids need this now more than ever.
Right. No question. What made you interested in this sort of part of education?
Yeah, so I've always really been very self-aware, and I'm very much a person who likes to reflect on why and how I do things and react in certain ways, and what my role is in a lot of my relationships. And I just think and I mean, I've always known I wanted to be a teacher. And when I began teaching and started kind of just putting these little, videos online, it was just such like I don't know how it all kind of happened, but there was just a ton of response, right? Like, how did you learn how to teach this way? And tell me more about this. And what PD did you attend? And what class? And I really was like, I don't know. This is just what I do. It's kind of just how I do it. And there wasn't really a book, a class, a professor who taught me to engage with kids the way that I do. It was just naturally ingrained, so to speak. And when I learned that that was such a need for my audience, I kind of just pulled myself back and said, okay, well, how do I do what I do? And how do I interact with kids and teach the way I do? And I realized, big picture, me stepping back, there was a method, there was a system. And so that's kind of what led me down to creating my first course, Heart-Centered Classroom Management, and kind of packaging that up in a really simple 3-step system for teachers to take, listen to, learn from, and implement into their classrooms. And it's just been like a blur ever since. But I think going back to what you initially asked, behavior, relationships, just growing as a human being, growing and learning and evolving in each stage of my life, that work has always been incredibly interesting to me. And so, yeah, just taking that and bringing it into classrooms, and it's I don't know, I love it.
So yeah, no, I can tell. I love that you love it, and it comes across. What are the 3 steps? So like you say 3 simple steps. What are the 3?
Yep. So my three-step method, which obviously I go into a ton of detail in the course, but the three-step system is connect, reward, repair. And that's my classroom management system, my heart-centered classroom management system. And then actually currently I'm working on, this is kind of like top secret information, but I'm gonna I'm gonna throw a little nugget out there. Currently I'm working on a new course called Heart-Centered Behavior Management. And that also has a three-step system: reflect, regulate, cope. So just kind of giving teachers like very manageable and easy to in PD is my mission with these courses, because they have a lot on their plate. I mean, I know I was in the classroom for, 7, almost 8 years. I get everything they're going through, and especially on top of teaching in a pandemic, and it's a lot. So yeah.
So when you say connect, right? When you go into detail, because right, I think obviously that's the key with kids, especially harder to reach kids, is building that connection. What specifically do you do, and do you recommend that they do if they're not really sure where to start?
Yeah, so I always say we need to, before you can connect with your students, you have to kind of do a lot of self work, and you need to think about like how you are interacting with different people and why you're interacting in those ways. So if there is a student, for example, that is acting out, so to speak, and it's making you feel a certain type of way, you kind of need to go inward first and think, okay, why am I feeling that way?
Mm,
And why is that bothering me so much? Because I think that's number one, because teachers like, and I mean, I don't like to say and make this like generalization, but a lot of the teachers that I work with, because we haven't had specific training on how to interact with certain students and when they're, emotionally flooded or dealing with certain things, um, we kind of jump to like throwing a label, right? It's easy to say like, oh, that student is just bad, or oh, that
right.
student is just,
Disrespectful,
yes, disrespectful.
uncooperative, rude, like the
Yeah,
one words that we pin the kid
yeah.
with.
And I
Right.
think that is such a disservice, because not only are we not being fair to that student, but ultimately we're not being fair to protecting our relationship with that student, right?
Yeah.
And without even knowing, it's affecting our relationship with that student. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
absolutely. Well, one of the things that I say to teachers all the time is, right, it's not about whether a kid was disrespectful. It's about, did you have to feel disrespected? Just
yeah,
because, just right, disrespectful is about someone else. Disrespected is about you.
yep,
Decide right now that a 6-year-old child can't disrespect you. And if you make
yeah,
that commitment to yourself, then whatever that kid does or says is irrelevant, because you're already
exactly.
decided, right? And it's always something else going on in their life. It's always right. It's we all of us, right, take out our, I think I definitely do this, take
Mhm.
out our biggest annoyances, aggravations, and frustrations in our life on people we actually love and care about the most. And I
Yeah,
think kids frequently do that, and teachers are the ones in the way, right? It's sort of
right.
like the hurricane's coming through and you happen to be the one in the path, and it's not about you, right? It's
Yep,
not
yep,
about you. It's about 50 other things going on in that kid's world. And if you can stay focused on those things, right, and
yes.
not take it personally, I think we see a total shift in how we approach the kid.
Right. And that's where then you are able to emotionally connect with the child. Because if you haven't done all of that pre work, so to speak, it's going to be really hard to get there. And your kids can feel that. They can feel it off of you. If you're not there yet and you're in a space of, oh my God, oh my goodness, the student is really bothering me. Oh my goodness, the behaviors the student is engaging in are really getting to me. They can feel that and they can sense it. So you're not going to be able to go further. You're not going to be able to go deeper. And I think that part is so difficult for you and I and whoever is coaching a teacher, because they have to be willing to do that work with themselves first. And you can't, there isn't really any kind of PD you can package and hand to them and say, okay, here you go. These are the steps you follow. Because I feel like a lot of us just want this script where it's like, okay, I'm going to do A, B, and C to get
Right.
to B. And it's not that, I mean, we know it's not that
Right.
simple, but it can be too. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think there's, I mean, the bottom line is there's all different kinds of kids, right?
yeah,
And we have to be able and willing in all direct, to look in whatever direction that they're going. And, I think, looking at ourselves is hard, right?
yeah,
It's a hard thing in the world to do because, it forces us to, to pick ourselves apart. And, but that the reality is in my life, the only person I can control is me. And I think that's the biggest classroom management mistake that a lot of people make, right? When you look at how classroom management is done traditionally, right? It's what's the process, right? Kid misbehaves, teacher writes a referral, kid gets a consequence, right? Whether it's phone call home, detention, and school suspension, all of that is predicated on change the kid, change the kid, change the kid, change the kid. When that doesn't work, we often turn to things like tickets and stickers and rewards, which I'm not judging or criticizing those things. I'm just saying, again, what do those have in common, right? Change the kid, change the kid, change the kid. Everything is external focused. And without the piece that forces us to look in the mirror, everything else is going to be in trouble.
100%. And I think too, just to talk a little bit about, since you had mentioned reward, and reward is one of the steps, but it's not reward in the sense that you or others may be thinking. So the whole goal in heart-centered classroom management is for us to teach our students this foundation of, having integrity, showing appreciation. So all of these hardcore values, character values, is what we want to teach our students. So yes, you might have a student that comes to you and developmentally, they may not be ready to do the right thing instantly without a given tangible reward, right? But we want to believe that all students can get there. They can get there. They can do the right thing when nobody's watching and have integrity and have compassion for each other without getting that external, validation or tangible reward. And so, like you said, it's really about believing no matter where that child has been, no matter what they've been through, no matter what misbehaviors they come to your classroom with, they all start with a clean slate.
Yeah.
And you have to believe that as their teacher. And when you believe that to your core, nobody can argue that.
It's so hard though. Like, it's so hard. Like when you have certain kids who are really good at pushing buttons, you know what I mean? And they kind of know your code. And it's like, and I say this all the time, like, it's easy to be respectful it's easy to be respectful to respectful people, right? Anybody could do that. Like, can you be respectful to disrespectful people? That's kind of really the sign of character. But man, I don't think it's easy. And so what do you say to teachers who are like, okay, like, easier said than done?
Easier said than done, but it's still all going back to separating the misbehavior from the child. What they're engaging in terms of like their misbehaviors is not who they are as a person. And we have to make sure we kind of separate that. And really, I mean, it's up to the teacher to not only believe in the inherent goodness of that child, but also to investigate what's behind that behavior. And I think, especially me coming from a general education classroom background, I mean, because I am so interested in this work and in this study of behavior and childhood development, like all of that, those pieces, I have sought out different resources and trainings and things to grow and evolve that my school district wouldn't have necessarily like pointed me to, So I think it's really hard for general education teachers who have not received adequate training to know how to do these things. I mean, there isn't, it's sad to say, but there isn't specific classes in a lot of our undergraduate, when we're getting our teaching degrees, there really isn't that training available to us. So they kind of go into the classroom thinking, oh, I'm just going to, pass out tickets and pass out this and, to get the kids to behave. And that's why those one-off strategies, they don't work because you're not going deep with your kids.
Right. So were you always fascinated by this? Like, so you said you grew up wanting to be a teacher. Like, were you one of those kids who like played teacher and stuff and like, Right. Yeah.
Of
Why am I
course.
not surprised? But why behavior? Like, why is that something that fascinates you so much? Me too. I'm the same. But I
Yeah,
was a kid who misbehaved. I was a kid who was in trouble in school a lot. So,
you
but
know,
why do you? Is that so interesting to you?
yeah, this is a great question. And I think it's just the personality type that I am. So I don't know if you're familiar with the term, and I don't like to throw labels on myself,
Sorry.
but I don't know if you're familiar with the term empath. So I consider myself an empath. I'm very much a helper, and I think all teachers are helpers by nature, right? Givers and helpers. Um, but I'm a very emotional person and also a highly sensitive person. So I think because I am those things, I'm constantly wondering, how is this person feeling, and what is this person thinking, and how is what I did making this person feel.
Mm,
And sometimes, and I say this a lot, I talk about this a lot on my Instagram too. Sometimes I don't think this is a great thing about me because I'm in this constant mind state of reflection and, oh my goodness, could I have said this better? Oh my goodness, could I have done this better? And I always have feelers out there about how everyone is doing emotionally. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I,
Which can be exhausting.
Yes, and I
It's
think just
exhausting.
yes, and I think growing up, I was just always that person jumping in to care for others, and I think a lot of teachers can relate to that too, which I think is good because it makes me relatable. Um, so yeah, I just think just a lot of that kind of brought me down. And when people, were asking, "Hey, how do you engage with kids this way?" and how do you, yeah, that's I guess it.
Do you feel like you get pushback from teachers? Because I like it's hard to be a teacher coach, right? Like that's kind of what I am, right? You train teachers, and when that happens, teachers are territorial people, right? In general, like we believe that we're the expert, right? We
Yeah,
spend basically our entire life
right,
answering questions, and sometimes
right.
you can believe that you know everything. It's easy
Yeah.
to start believing that about yourself.
Mhm.
So do you find you get any pushback, or are most people pretty accepting of the help?
So it's kind of both ways. So I would say some of the teachers who have been in the field a little bit longer are a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just,
Pain in the ass.
well,
Sorry, I said it for you.
just maybe a little bit more apprehensive
Yeah.
about, just hearing some of my
What are you
strategies.
going to tell me? What do
Yes.
you know that I don't? That
Right.
sort of mentality, which is a common mentality that some people have.
But which is, again, going back to, whoa, why is what I'm doing triggering you so much? And
Yes.
that's a sign, that's a flag right there that, whoa, I need to go back and see, like, why are these feelings coming up for me right now? And
Totally.
is it because I'm struggling and I'm drowning right now, and there's just so much being all this behavior I can't control. And that's another thing. A lot of teachers think they have to control behavior, and that's not the case. And
What do
yeah.
you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Okay,
Like,
so
like by controlled, because I agree, right? I said earlier, I think the only person that I actually can control is myself.
well, that's
So
the
is
thing.
that what you mean? Like
And
kids, you're trying to control how a kid acts or how a
that's
kid talks.
That's exactly what I mean. And I mean, and I'm just throwing random names out there. If
Yeah.
Joey's going to come in and something triggers him and he's having a meltdown on the floor, you getting upset or yelling at Joey or shaming, blaming, any of those things to Joey because of the way that he's reacting in that situation is not helpful, one. And two, it's actually hurting your relationship with that child. So that's where he is right now. And we have to respect that. If that's how he's getting out whatever he needs to get out, as long as it's not hurting him or others around him, he needs to do that. And he needs you to be that regulated, calm person in that, like, calm adult in that situation, and kind of just, accepting that he's over there, validating what he's feeling, and trying not to let that shake you, which I know, like, it's easier
Right.
said than done, right? Um, Yeah. And so I think teachers just need to accept where their students are. And that's not a time to teach Joey how to self-regulate or how to cope in a healthy way. That's not an optimal
Only
teaching
goal
time.
is to diffuse, right? Like
Yeah.
when a kid is really upset, whether it's a meltdown or whatever kind of upset it is, the only
Yep.
goal is to diffuse. It's to get the
Yeah.
kid back down to a regulated level so that then you can begin the teaching process after
Right.
that. And
Right. And I think,
sometimes, good.
no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes I think that requires us to do things that we don't necessarily feel. Like, for example, I know one of the things that I teach is to sometimes apologize to kids, even when you don't feel like you're wrong, right?
Right.
Even like you don't feel like you did anything wrong as a
Yeah.
teacher, but sometimes like I'll just say to a kid, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I hate you, Mr. Manley. I know, and I'm sorry, but you're such a jerk, right? And I'm sorry." Like I'll just keep agreeing and I'm sorry. And usually at some point the kid will be like, "Wait, what are you sorry for?" And if I'm not really sorry, what I'll usually say is, "I'm really sorry for the fact that anyone in our school or in our class ever got as upset as you just got." Because the truth is, like, when I wake up in the morning, I never mean for that to happen. And for whatever I did, whatever my colleagues did, whatever any of the others kids did, on behalf of all of us, I'm really, really sorry. And then right after that, then it's, by the way, is there anything you think you could maybe do differently next time? Like, but by modeling it first and showing the kid how to take responsibility and accountability, they're much more willing to do it. I have a funny story with this. So I did this with a kid one time. Her name was Ashley. Ashley's the name, by the way, that if I ever have another child, they will not be named Ashley. You know how like teaching ruins certain names?
We all have those.
So shout out to all the Ashleys out there. But anyway, but I had this girl, Ashley, and she was, having one of these crazy, and I did that whole thing. I'm sorry. And then finally she was like, I did the whole thing, I'm sorry for the fact that you would is there anything you could do differently next time? And she looks at me and she goes, "Okay, I probably shouldn't have called you an asshole." And I said, probably you shouldn't have, because I said for sure that, and she goes, "Okay, fine. For sure, I probably shouldn't have called you. I'm pretty sure that I probably shouldn't have for sure called you an asshole." And I was like, that was the best I was going to get. But it was, she took a little bit of accountability for herself. And that's what we're looking for.
Exactly. And like you said, once that happens, it's going to just grow the next time, right? Hopefully. I mean, because you're starting to nurture that relationship with you and that child. And yeah, like you said, I think when you were saying, are there teachers who kind of are just like not ready to just accept and open a lot of those suggestions? Yes, but I will say most of the teachers, they are willing, and once they start implementing even just like the smallest strategy or the smallest, and they see how quickly it works. Like, for example, I'll give an example. I have a teacher in my monthly membership, and she was having a difficult time with her students. I don't know if she gave me a specific example. I can't remember offhand. But I told her, I said, "You know what, Erin, I could give you a ton of things to start doing with your kids." I said, "But I'm just going to give you one. It's going to be really simple. I want you to check in with your students at least 3 times a day. Like in your morning meeting, do a feeling check-in. In your midday meeting, do a feeling check-in. At the end of the day, do a feeling check-in." Very, very simple. And we do it in my kindergarten classroom daily. We'll all close our eyes. We kind of just get in a calm place. Okay, scan your brain, scan your body. How are you feeling? We all do the poof. They love that part. And they get to share how they're feeling in that moment and I always say, we give a reason. Tell me why. So they'll raise a hand. "I'm feeling sad because," and I mean, the things that you learn about
slow down. Take slow your example down. So it's how you're feeling. Like,
how are you
what's
feeling?
the whole process?
So what do you mean the whole process?
Like, so you close your eyes and then
we scan our brains, we scan our bodies, and we do that. We do the gestures and everything. My little sweet 5 and 6 year olds, poof, how are you feeling? We
Got
open
it.
our eyes. And I mean, I tell my members too, you can switch it up. You can put them in partner pairs, you can share in a whole group, whatever, but make sure you carve out that 5 to 10 minute time where you're asking the class specifically, how are you feeling right now? Like,
And
take a
then
minute.
they respond right then to you, or they respond to each other?
Well, it depends. So if I'm doing like just a quick whole group, they can raise a quiet hand and share with the class, like, I'm feeling sad because my grandma is in the hospital. And so if they share one of those strong feelings, or, whatever the case, I always teach them, let's put our hands over our heart just to offer some support to that friend. So you see right there, we're teaching empathy and holding space for each other. It's so powerful. It's the simplest thing. But once you start implementing that and you're engaging with your students on that emotional level, I mean, you're already going to see frequency and intensity of future misbehaviors be slashed. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
Yep.
so she started
Of
doing
course.
that, and it was within one day she saw a massive difference. And I said, well, yeah, you're feeling like their emotional connection
Right.
bucket right there.
That's right. And the other thing that you're doing is you're learning about kids,
Yeah.
right? Like you're getting the opportunity to hear about a sick grandma or an abusive step parent or whatever. And those are always seeds that you can hold on to for later, right? So where even
Yeah.
when you're not doing that activity, where you can just drop by a kid's desk with a little note and be like, hope
Yeah.
your grandma's doing well. And so you can parlay that into a whole bunch of other places.
Yep. Yep, and that's exactly what I said. So if you notice so and so shares, that they were sad or they came in upset about something that happened at home, you kind of have a little radar. Ooh, while they're working on their morning work, I'm going to go around and check in with that student one-on-one. And so yeah, like you said,
And then sharing about your own self, right?
yeah,
But by the way, let me tell you about my grandma and
yes,
how old I was when she died and how
yeah,
I felt. Are you feeling this way as well? And
yeah,
it's just that, and that those are the kind of things that when people say connect to kids, right? Like those are the kind of things that just build that that relentless connection to where the kid's like, oh, you're asking me to pick my head up or you're asking me to take my hat off, no problem. Why? Because it's you asking me,
it's
right?
you,
It's correct. I'm going to do it for you. For you, I'm not. In fact,
right,
for you, I'm going to tell you to go F off. But for you, I'm going to say, sorry, sir. And
yeah,
it's like, and that's the thing, though. You see that all the time in schools where, a kid will behave one place, but they won't somewhere else. And
yeah.
that's what I always say to school. I'm like, how come nobody's asking what's that one
Oh,
doing that one isn't doing?
yes. Oh my goodness. So
Right.
that just made me think of when I would pick, because I've had some very difficult classes, and I'll go pick my kids up from wherever it is, lunch or, a special. And as soon as I walk into that room, they've all got their ready fingers up. And, maybe not always, but and I'll look over at the teacher that was watching them, and right away it's like, this person was hitting this person
Right.
was doing this person was doing, whoa, and I just am like, and again, I hate to say, like,
What do you say? What do you say to that person?
what do I say? Well, I
Yeah.
turn, and sometimes it may drive them crazy. I turn and with a very sweet smile, I just say, what did they do well? And that's what I say.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. In that scenario, what I always say is just email me.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Anytime that they start complaining, I'm like, you know what? I want to hear about it all. Just send me an email. And they never do because they're always so busy. But that gets them to be quiet in that moment. And then the thing is, if they do email me, then
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, it was important. I better deal with this, right?
Yeah.
Because that lady went out of her way to email me about something. It's kind of how I filtered out the complainers from the
Right.
people who actually had something that they wanted to talk about.
Have you ever heard of I can't remember if I'm going to say this right, but I think they say, like, is it Oreo or sandwich? I don't know, where you give like a positive and then you say something they need to work on. And there was an administrator, one of my girlfriends mentioned, she has a friend who's an administrator, and she like follows, I don't know, says something about that. And so she said she had told me, because I went to her after, because it is hard not to take that feedback to heart. when they're your students. And a lot of my teacher members that I coach too will ask me, okay, how do I deal with, the lunch mom is coming to me and, always listing out all these negative things. And how do I take that and respond to my students with that? Because you don't want to ignore it, but you also don't want to take that and because again, it's kind of going back to, well, why were all those things happening with all those kids at that time in your room under your care?
Totally.
It's like what I think. A lot of our students' behaviors, without whether we know it or not, we play a big role in it. So
Yes, there's no question.
That's hard to accept for a lot of teachers and adults. It's easier to just say, no, they're just bad.
Correct.
No, they're just catty. No, they're
Correct.
just.
That's right. And look, the bottom line about behavior, and we kind of said it earlier, is that's why many behavior programs fail, right? And I say this right in my workshop to the administrators' faces. I say to them, do y'all have a referral form? And they always say, yeah. And I say, does it have a spot that asks what the adult did wrong?
Yeah.
And they say no. And I say, right. What about a spot that asks what the adult could do differently next time? Is that on there? And they're like, no. And I'm like, right. And the thing is, and I'm not saying, like, teachers, listen, I'm not saying that I believe that we are the problem. I'm not saying that. But we have to admit that we are some of the time, right?
Yeah.
And
play a role.
Correct. We play a role. And the thing is, our response is, right, when a kid looks at me and says from across the room, Mr. Mendler, this lesson sucks. Like, I have two choices, right? I can argue, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it does. Like, what am I, 9 years old? Right. Or I could say, whoa, time out, buddy, time out. Like, come here, let me talk to you real quick. Like, listen. I'm not trying to act like every lesson I teach is dynamic and amazing and incredible. You want to know why? Why not, Mr. Mendler? Because some of them are not. Like, let me tell you a little story, kid. Do you know how many days there are in a normal school year? How many, Mr. Mendler? 180 days. Okay. You know how many lessons I teach in one of those days? How many, Mr. Mendler? Like 6. Do you know what 180 times 6 is? What is it, Mr. Mendler? 1,040 lessons a year that I teach. Some of them are going to suck. How could they not? Right? Like, if you go out to dinner 1,040 times, you think you're always going to get a good meal?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee, right? They got new people cooking. They're trying new recipes. They're doing all kinds of, and so look, right? You got me. Today wasn't my best effort. And then what I'll say, but that said, just like I would never yell from across the room that some of your reading skills are a total disaster, which, by the way, some of them are, or your math skills are a nightmare. I would never yell that at you. Why would you yell that, Mr. Mendler? Because that would be embarrassing to you. Yeah. And my goal is not to embarrass you. Right? You know what you could have done instead? You could have pulled up a chair and sat down right next to me. And you could have looked at me and said, Mr. Mendler, admit it, man. You thought there was going to be a snow day today, didn't you? Like, there's no way you planned for our class. And like, you're on our case about us giving you effort. But what about us? Don't we deserve it from you? And here, my point is that, like, in both scenarios, the kid said, your lesson sucks. Right. Yeah. And how I responded totally different in each one. And that's what gets it to go in a certain direction. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, exactly. I was just going to say exactly what you said. That's where you go certain ways with that child. And ultimately, our goal should be to protect our relationships with our students. And if that's your goal, engaging in a power struggle is not going to help you get there.
Right. There's an acronym that I love. I learned a long time ago called LAAD, LAAD, and it stands for listen, acknowledge, agree, defer. Right. Mm-hmm. And those are 4 really good steps in diffusing power struggle. It's like, this lesson sucks. Well, I listened. Right. That was easy. Right. Yeah. Acknowledge. Hey, buddy, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Yep. Agree. This is the hardest one when I talk to teachers because but I don't agree. Okay. Like, I get that you don't, but you can let the kid know that what they're saying is or might be true. Yeah. I hear you, buddy. And I'm not even saying you're wrong. Right? Yes. Yes. And then you defer. But right now, this moment, probably not the best time for us to finish this conversation. But thanks for waiting till after class, and I'll finish this with you then, right? So you're listening, acknowledging, agreeing, and then deferring, and then walk away.
Yeah.
Like,
and
walk away.
So that defer piece is so important too, because like you said, it allows your student to also save face, so to speak, right? And the whole class isn't kind of like eating their popcorn, like, ooh, what's going to happen next? You
Right,
know, like,
right.
yeah, that's great. I like that.
Your teeth are perfect, by the way. Does
Oh,
anyone ever tell you that?
actually, they're fake, so thanks.
No way. You have they're all fake. They're so
Uh, the front four.
why? Why do you have fake teeth?
So this one was, I got it like, I was sitting on a stool, fell backwards, and it popped out. So this one was always fake.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait. You're sitting on a stool and you fell backwards. How does your teeth get knocked out when you fall backwards?
So the chair, I was like, the way
How
that
old
I,
were you?
well, I would think I was like 12 or something.
Okay.
But the way I was sitting, like this, I was sitting. I don't know how to explain it, but this front of the stool just hit me in the face, and then my tooth popped out.
No way.
Yeah, so it was.
So what about the other three?
Well, it was like a lifelong thing of trying to match this one and this one, and they would never match, right?
So you knocked the other one out on purpose.
No, so then my dentist was like, "Listen, you need to just change the front four and
Just remodel the whole thing. Got it.
Dang, okay, let's do it."
Oh my God. Well, whoever did it, they did a great job because they're perfection.
Thank
That's
you. So
good. You could do you could do a smile infomercial. That's good. But I think, don't you think though, like that's a big part of it? Like the energy that people bring to a space and like the excitement. And I feel like, I watch your videos on Instagram and you have that, like you have like this internal, just like passion for it. And I did too. Like I loved it, right? I loved it. I loved when a kid would tell me to F off. I actually enjoy, I'm wired different because or kid was like, you're a dick. And I'd be like, yep. And I could be a bigger one. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was never an argument. It was just always, right? Just rolling with it.
But when you look at the difference between, okay, so you said you noticed that, and I appreciate that so much. It means so much coming from you. But I think
the teeth part, the teeth or the teaching, both.
And the teacher. But I was going to say, you've done some major internal work. If you are sitting there and you're bringing that energy and you're holding space for your students, regardless of where they're at in terms of their ability to self-regulate and manage their emotions, and you've done that work, and that's why you're able to get there. And I think a lot of the teachers, where we kind of hit a wall, and where I notice I hit a wall with certain teachers I'm trying to coach, it's when they're not willing to do that and they just want you to hand them that script and they can just check off, okay, yep, I did a family wall, so that's building connections. Check. Yep, I put this up in my room. Yep, okay, so I built connections. And it's like, no, that's not it. And it's really hard to, I think it all goes back to, like you said, taking responsibility for where we're at on our inward journey. And it just
and look, and the other part of it is like, if you don't like it, quit. Like if you like, no one's, I mean, that like people are complaining. I'm like, you signed up for this. Like look, and the thing is though, I think some people signed up to teach math or science or social studies, and they didn't sign up to teach kids, right? And there's a difference, right? If I show up every day and I'm there to teach math, then the kids are in the way, right? But if I show up every day to teach kids, then the math is in the way.
It's all about how you frame it, right?
And it's sort of like and I ask this rhetorical question of teachers all the time. I say, like, the question to ask yourself is, every teacher in the world kicks something out of class every day. Do you kick out the kid because they got in the way of your content, or do you kick out the content because it's in the way of the kids?
I shudder when I hear about kids being kicked out. What message is that sending them? Oh my goodness. I had a student who was, came with every label in the book to my kindergarten classroom, a 5-year-old child already thrown all these labels on, comes to my classroom, and Brian, he was none of those. And I mean, I would have adults come into the room who knew him.
Right.
They would just be baffled. Wait, what? That's Brennan? What? And it's, and he's doing wonderful. He's great. But then it's so hard for me as a teacher to know to kind of let my students go at the end of the year, because I'm not with them then at that point, and they are with different teachers. And
Yep.
a couple years later, guess who I was seeing out in the hallways again?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's so difficult. And
I know.
every time I'd pass him, I'd say, "Hey, Bren," and give him a hug. And I'm sure there were teachers who were not happy about me engaging with him during that time while he was out in the hallway. But I
Right.
just I can't I can't back that practice.
Right. Right. Because I think some people's thought process is you're rewarding a kid who did something bad. And I think, right, there, like, some people look at it that way. I don't choose to look at it that way either. I see their point. I see what you're saying, but I don't see it that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to me, it just always goes back to what message are you sending that child? And when you send that child out into the hallway, and it all goes back to everything that happened before that happened too, right? So like you said, I could see that point depending on what all happened before that happened. But the overall message that I assume, which maybe I wrongly am assuming, but I don't think I'm wrongly assuming, because I can read Brennan's body language and what his face is saying when I see him out in the hallway. And I know the message being sent there is, I can't handle you.
Right.
You don't belong here. You
Right.
don't belong here. And I mean, saying that
Right.
aloud gives me goosebumps, because look at this message that we're sending to this child. And
Right.
it's going to be hard to go back and have a safe relationship with that teacher for Brennan.
Right. Right. Everything you're saying. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's tough though. Like if I mean, again, because I think the pushback though is Brennan, right? Or whoever the Brennan is in the way of other kids and affecting the learning of all the other kids. And I think,
right.
I think that's a valid point that some people make. And I think the response is, but like, I think sometimes people assume that, that it's bad for a good kid to be in class with a bad kid. Right. And I always say, but they have to share a cubicle someday at work. Like it's not bad for a kid to be in class with another kid who misbehaves sometimes.
Yeah.
Correct. Right. Correct. Like, why are we trying to always protect everybody? This is real life.
Oh my goodness. And it kind of goes to piggyback off on an example you gave earlier when you said the student shouting, "This lesson sucks," and you having that conversation with that student. Hey, it's not going to be Disney World in here every day. It's real life. I go to work some days and I don't love it, So I think, like you said, our kids, we're trying to teach our kids daily life, like, lessons here, and like you said, when we're constantly jumping in to try to protect certain students or rescue certain students, we're really doing a disservice.
Correct.
A large disservice.
Correct. No question. Like, it's important that, I know, I remember saying this multiple times to kids, like, right now, your job is to see if you can focus while somebody else is freaking out. Like, do you, like, while the kid's freaking out over here, I'm talking to kids over here saying, right now, that this is your chance. Do you have the ability to focus when someone else is trying to take you off your game, right? Like, you're going to play basketball someday, right? You think they're not all going to be going like this when you're shooting a free throw and screaming and throwing stuff at you? Can you hit the three anyway? And right now is your chance to practice that. And I think sending that message versus let's rescue you all the time from this other kid who's causing, some type of issues, right? Just roll with it and use it as a teachable moment for that kid as well.
And it's too, like, that just reminded me of a student I had last year who came almost like 2 months before school ended. Okay. So tail end of the school year. She was extremely defiant. If I'm like throwing, I mean, I'm not.
I got you.
But, there was there was a lot. She had just lost her father in a car accident, tragically, and she was coming to school with really big feelings. I mean, lots of separation anxiety from mom, and she would just sob, scream, cry for like the first 15 minutes almost of every school day. And it was interesting to observe and be a part of my classroom when that would happen with this little girl. And the rest of my students, I mean, like you could walk in and they're all, you know, doing their writing work. And yeah, you know, Aliana's got to do what she's got to do. If that's what she's feeling right now, we're going to let her feel that. And it's all about how I tell my class, okay, this is what's happening. It's okay.
Right.
You go ahead, continue working on your work. I will be around. I'm kind of helping Aliana too. Let's help her out. It's all about how you frame it to your students too, because they're still learning, and it's good for them to see those things happening. Like you said, like this is the real world. There's going to be people having a hard time around us, and what can we do to offer support?
That's right.
To not jump to, you know, judging or assuming. I mean, she was welcomed and embraced with open arms, like, as she should have been.
That's right. Well, one of the things that I think is important for teachers to remember is that you're not a cop and you're not a judge. And I think a lot of teachers try to be both. And the thing is, we stink at both. Like teachers are notoriously bad cops and they're bad judges. We don't know how to do either. And so what I always tell them is just teach. Just stop judging and stop policing and just teach. And all we do really, when you break teaching down to its most basic form, is we take you where you are and we make you better.
Yeah.
Right. So really all we do is we take you. And so you have to be where you are, right? If wherever you are is where you are, and I have to go get you and make you better. And so that's where you are at that moment. And to try to pretend correct. And that's fine.
Accept it, embrace it. And how can we grow from here?
That's right. And I think it's important to tell them, like I used to say to my kids, especially in self-contained, I would always say to them, listen, right at the beginning of the year, I would say, listen, I want you to know right now, listen to what I'm telling you. Some of you in this class this year are going to do and say some rude, nasty, inappropriate, not nice, mean things. I know that's going to happen. And I want you to know that if and when it happens, I'm not always going to be stopping what I'm doing to deal with it. It doesn't mean I didn't hear it, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything about it. It just means sometimes I think teaching the few of you that are, those of you that are not being inappropriate, is more important than stopping for the couple of you that are. And like, so I'm always telling them right now is one of those times. Remember I said sometimes people are going to do and say things. That's happening right now. Let's just focus on what we're doing over here. 3 + 3. What is the answer to that? And you stay focused on where you're going.
Yeah. And I think that's really powerful to jump ahead of some of those behaviors too, with your students. Like you said, I do that with my kindergartners too. I say, okay, like this is like, I kind of model too. And I mean, they think it's funny in the moment, but that's stuff that I know they're going to do. They're going to walk around with their scissors like this up in the air, you know, or they're going to, you know, just little things like that. But I think, jumping ahead and kind of letting them know, hey, when this happens, this is what's going to happen.
Correct. And then he also even bringing them in the mix on those decisions. Like sometimes I would say to, you know, a kid would say to me, like, what consequence is going to happen if I break that rule? And I'll say to him, I don't know. Like, what's it going to take to you to stop calling people names? I mean, I could give you a consequence, but I don't really care about that. I care that you stop calling people names. I think sometimes we get caught up. Like, I always think about consequences and homework as a vehicle to a destination. It's not the destination, it's the vehicle, right? The destination is you're not going to call people names, you're not going to hit, you're not going to bite, you're not going to spit, you're going to show me that you know how to write an essay. But how we get there, I don't really care how we get there, right? And I think sometimes what happens with educators is, especially on a system level, but we get so caught up in the vehicle that we forget where we wanted to take kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And bringing them in the mix, like, and that's another place you can give them choice, right?
Choice and just control over their situation. And even too, that's such a great way to build relationships, right? You're giving them a say, you're working on this together. Hey, let's make a plan together. How powerful is that? You're working as a team. That's the message you're sending that child. Like, oh, such
love it. Love it. Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff. So this membership, tell me a little bit about that. So you have a subscription service and basically helping teachers, coaching teachers. So
how that all happened was, so first I launched the course, and you know, a course, I feel like it's great because it's all there for you, self-paced. You can work on it on your own time, but there's nobody kind of keeping you accountable. There's nobody saying, okay, so this is what you're going to take into your classroom tomorrow. 1, 2, 3. It's up to you to take what you learned and go do it. Right. And I think with teachers, there's just obviously there's like our plates are just always being stacked more. I got to do this, this, this. And so what I found was a lot of my course students were like, whoa, Andriana, I need a lot more from you in terms of like help with how to implement, in terms of, can you give me more resources on how to implement this system? Can you give us more coaching? And that's kind of how the membership came to be.
Nice.
So the membership is just a monthly membership, and each month we have a theme that we work on. So it's a lot more focused. So it's a little less overwhelming for them. And they have, they get resources, they get a call with me. So yeah, it's great.
Is that what, so when you first messaged me, was that what you wanted me to be a part of? Like,
no, I want you to be a part of my new course, the Heart-Centered Behavior Management. So that'll be like the sister course to Heart-Centered Classroom Management.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So basically, I mentioned, so with Heart-Centered Classroom Management, we teach Connect, Reward, Repair. But again, your classroom management is what you're doing as a whole, right? It's like you're overarching. With behavior management, I'm really teaching and coaching teachers specific behavior management strategies. So that's where that system comes in: reflect, regulate, cope. And we're doing a lot of like inner work, healing our inner child, all that fun stuff I love to talk about. In order to, like I said, be able to connect on a way deep level. And so yeah, that new course launching in a few weeks. And I'd be honored to have you as a guest speaker on that. Basically all I'm looking for is like a 15 to 20-minute video training, like a presentation from you about, I was going to kind of give you some say in what you wanted to talk to the group about, because I know you're really well versed in all of these behavior areas. But something particularly that I thought you'd be really good at talking to was just like the power struggles with kids and things like that.
How to avoid them, how to stay out of them. Right.
Yes. Yeah, keep away.
Yes.
But, yeah.
I would say that's the most probably common thread that I'm asked about is power struggles and just how to avoid them. And I always say they're like landmines everywhere. Like you just got to always be moving and looking for them and dodging them and, and staying out. Correct. It's like you're a boxer and you're always moving away, right, from a kid. And that's what it's about, right? It's about not taking things personally. It's about, right, second to last word, like not needing the last word. A lot of teachers are last word type people. We feel like if we don't get the last word, it makes us look weak. And the truth is the opposite is true, right? Needing the last word is actually what makes you look weak, right? And so being able to, the kid's going to mumble about you sometimes under the breath and call you some names and like, hear it differently. I would say that to teachers. Imagine instead of, the kid mumbling, I hate your guts, you stupid dumb. Imagine if they were like, Mr. Mellner, right now, under their breath, they mumbled. Imagine if they mumbled, right now, I have to call you a couple names under my breath. Because if I don't, I'm going to look like a wimp in front of my entire class. And I can't look like that, right? Yeah. So be the mature adult and continue walking away from me. Exactly. Right? And it's like, that's really what they're saying in the only way they can say it. They can't say it any other way. So they call you a name or two under their breath. But like, if you can learn to hear it and see it differently, it will cause you to respond differently. And that's always the goal.
Yes, exactly. Responding from that place of empathy.
So last couple questions. First, I love the term heart-centered discipline. It's a great, and I've seen you multiple times throughout our conversation kind of touch your heart, right? Yeah. So like, where did that come from for you?
I think just, like I said, I think everything I do is rooted in heart. And like you said, it's not even just one thing that you can walk into my classroom or watch an in-action video and see. It's not even like, it's just a vibe. It's a feel, like you feel it. You're like, whoa, wait, this feels different. Wait, how is this different? And that's how it's all coming from the heart. Yeah.
You can't teach that stuff.
That's awesome. What's so difficult.
I know. You can't.
There's not a script. So
I think one thing you can do this year, one thing that I'm doing this year a lot more than I've ever done, like I'm not one of these cliche people, but I I think like going back to your why this year is an important thing to do. And it's like, I always say to teachers, did any of you go into this because you like grading or because you like standards or because you like, why did you go into this? Like, what was your whole purpose at the beginning? And usually when you push them to that, they're like, well, kids, I was trying to change kids and I want to, and like, you have the ability to do that, right? Like nobody can take that away from you. No matter what's happening in the world, you can still make a kid's life just a little bit better. And if that becomes your focal point every day, then you're not going to win every battle, but overall you're going to have a good day because you're just going to be like, let me just impact that kid in a positive way right now. And that's really the focus.
Yes. And I think too, for teachers, a lot of it too is going to be, I don't want to say like muting the noise, but there is so much noise in terms of just like, our evaluations, our pop-in evaluations, and
right,
our lesson plans that we have to submit to our admin, and all of these other things that we do not like doing. And all of these, like, okay, these are your instructional minutes. From this time to this time, you have to be teaching math. From this to this time, you have to be teaching science. And teachers will come to me with that. And I get those can all be roadblocks, but they don't have to be. I still shut my door and I still do what kids need. I do what we need, because guess what? It doesn't matter if I have to teach math from 9:30 to 10:45. If they're not there, they're not there.
Right. But I think one of the issues for a lot of teachers, especially newer, younger teachers, is there's kind of two things that live at the same time in education, right? There's what I'm supposed to teach, which comes from everybody but me, right? It comes from the state, it comes from administrators, it comes from above me. So that's a real thing, right? What I'm supposed to teach. And then there's also what kids need to learn. And I think teaching is actually relatively easy when those two things line up, right? When what I'm supposed to teach is also what they need to learn. But the reality right now, especially now in school, is that what I'm supposed to teach is in New York and what they need to learn is in LA. And the teachers are getting caught in Nebraska, right? Like they're getting pulled and correct. And one of the things that I believe strongly is, if you ever feel that as a teacher, always go with what they need over what you're supposed to, and trust that by giving them what they need, it will lead you back to what you're supposed to.
100%.
But you have to trust yourself to do that.
And that's elite. Yeah, you do. And that a lot of that does come down to your teacher confidence. And if you're confident, then you're going to be okay going that way. And that's why, like you said, with a lot of my newer, or the teachers who are a little bit more apprehensive to, implement more social emotional learning time, or more, specific, just SEL instruction. I always say, just trust this, because even though it's taking this time, you are going to get there, because your students will be able to handle that and more.
That's right. It's an investment. You have to see it as an investment, right? Yeah. The thought process I say to them, or the analogy I draw is, right, you're a teacher, you make 40, 50 grand a year. Every dollar you earn, you could probably spend somewhere legitimately right now. But we still take a little bit and we put it away, because the people who know best tell us, if I do this for long enough, after a while, it's going to be worth way more. And it's the same concept here, right? I get your point, and I see that it's a couple minutes that you could have been doing X, Y, or Z, but when you add all those minutes up, when you do it every day, you're just going to see a tremendous change in kids. These hours go quick. Is there anything that you want to, I always ask people, what would you like to leave people with? Any last bit of knowledge or info you want to leave people with? We didn't even talk about your name, the Active Educator, which I love that. By the way, I love your Instagram handle. And I was actually going to tell you should put that on your screen, the Active Educator. I didn't even know your last name. I still don't know your last name. What is your last name?
It's Zarovska.
Zarovska. I started following you on Instagram right when you got married. And you had the craziest wedding.
I did.
Your wedding was insane, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we're those crazy Eastern European people.
Yeah. How many people were at your wedding?
I think it was like 350.
Okay.
350.
But I remember seeing the pictures, and it was like all out, right?
Yeah. The pig dance. Woo. We had it. Yeah, we had it all.
Where is that? Where are you from then? What is that?
I was born in Macedonia.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Macedonia?
Macedonia is, well, it's former Yugoslavia, so I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with that. So it's right under Serbia. I mean, Albania is next to it. Greece is right below us.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's where I'm from. My husband's from Serbia, so yeah, we're both in that Eastern European.
You met here though in the States?
Here, yep.
Yeah.
Here, just through mutual friends, and yeah, our wedding was pretty crazy,
It
but
was.
it honestly, that was like a chill Macedonian wedding
It was?
compared to, I mean, my sister had like 900 people at her wedding.
No way. Wow. Is your sister older or younger?
She's older. Yeah.
Older. How many siblings do you have?
3. I'm the middle.
You're the middle. So there's an older sister and what's younger?
Younger brother.
Younger brother.
They're both accountants. I'm the only teacher.
You're the only teacher out of the group. What do they do?
They're accountants.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Mom's an engineer. So, yeah.
So you became a teacher.
So I became the only teacher. Yeah.
Right. All right. Good. All right. Well, they can find you everywhere, right? You're obviously an Instagram star. You do a lot there. You do a lot of good stuff though. I mean that sincerely, like you know, you put out good content and that's good. And so the Active Educator, and then where else can they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram.
That's the best place.
That's the best place. Activeeducator.com. I have a lot of good blogs there for them to read, but I would say the best way is Instagram because you can kind of absorb that in-action video content that I feel like a lot of people gain a lot from.
Very good. All right. Well, listen, this was fun. It was great talking to you. I appreciate you coming on.
I loved it. It was
yay. All right. Everybody else, don't forget. Let me just. Yep. Thank you. It was good seeing you. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and download. And I'll be back with you same time in 2 weeks. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here.